talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's go through their NFL draft selections in 2025 and their free agency moves, and we'll talk about what happened last season and the biggest weaknesses with this team. We saw what happened last year. They fired Brandon Staley. They bring in Coach Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh was coming off a great college season. He won a national championship with Michigan. JJ was his quarterback. And we saw what happened with Coach Harbaugh during college in Michigan. He went out there and he built that offensive line. He recruited his offensive line. He did something very similar with the San Francisco 49ers when he had Colin Kaepernick being his starting quarterback. He built his team around physical trench play and a bunch of wide receivers that can give you different things. He comes over to the Los Angeles Chargers. No disrespect to Alex Smith, and the same with Colin Kaepernick. Justin Herbert is more talented than both of those quarterbacks from a throwing the football around the field standpoint and just his physical tools. In his first year, we saw the Los Angeles Chargers. It was a rebuilding year on the offensive end. They made the NFL playoffs. Unfortunately, they got blown out by the Houston Texans. They only had one valuable wide receiver and Ladd McConkey that was getting open on a consistent basis. And their offensive line at the tackle position, they're set. Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt. The interior of the offensive line was one of the worst units in the NFL. You can't fix everything overnight. This is going to take a long process to fully fix his offensive line. But what they did in free agency this year, I'm a huge fan of. Dating back to last season, you bring in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards, he missed some time. He was dealing with injuries. He wasn't the same player that he was with the Baltimore Ravens. When you go back and you look at Gus Edwards, he was averaging 4.5 to 5 yards a carry in a limited role. He wasn't a true bell cow in terms of you get him the football 20, 25 times a game. He worked very well with Lamar Jackson, but he was not a premier running back that you had to focus in for. And you look at J.K. Dobbins, a very good, talented running back. I would still take J.K. Dobbins on the Chargers team. The problem was this with him in the past. So many injuries, torn Achilles, torn ACL. He wasn't even able to finish out the season fully with the Los Angeles Chargers last season. He did have over 900 rushing yards. When you look at Coach Harbaugh, he wants you to be available all the way through the NFL season. He wants to have a clear rotation of running backs that he can depend on. And we saw a lot of home run hits with J.K. Dobbins last season. The interior of the offensive line was so bad. So they went out there and they doubled back at the running back position. They signed Najee Harris in free agency. 1 year, $9 million. He can earn up to $10 million with added incentives. You're getting a very good running back coming over from the Steelers. Najee Harris is not going to go out there and be a Saquon, be a Derrick Henry, but he's a very good bowling ball running back. He had the 7th most carries in the NFL last season, but the 14th most rushing yards, 1,043. 6 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 4 yards a carry. Every single season in his career, he's had over 1,000 rushing yards. He's reliable. He was not placed into the best situation with the Steelers, but at the same time, he's a very slow running back as the game progresses coming out of the backfield. But adding in Najee Harris, he's consistent. And goal line situations and short yardage situations, that's the running back that you should go to. In the first round with the 22nd pick, they doubled back at the running back position. They went with Omarion Hampton. I really wanted wide receiver here, but they went wide receiver with the 55th pick, which we'll talk about in the next couple of minutes. I can't come on here and crush Coach Harbaugh and the general manager and say they don't know what the hell they're doing by selecting running back in the first round. I love this pick. If it wasn't for Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton would have been the best running back coming out of college this season entering the NFL draft. He's a very good running back. He's a home run hitter. You're not going to re-sign Najee Harris after this upcoming season, more than likely. Omarion Hampton is the running back that you can get the football to 15 to 20 times in a game. He could be a home run hitter. 281 carries last season for North Carolina, 1,660 rushing yards, 6 yards a carry, 15 rushing touchdowns. That is what you want to see out of premier running back. He can be a franchise type of running back. And I look at this situation for everyone in the backfield involved. If you're playing with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, you're not going to face stacked boxes. And you have Ladd McConkey on the inside of the slot position. And to add back to another free agent move that they made, you go out there and you bring in Mekhi Becton from the Philadelphia Eagles. Mekhi Becton in the past with the New York Jets had an up and down career. He goes over to the Eagles. He was one of the best guards in the NFL. You could say that he benefited a lot from being in a great system with Philadelphia. the Chargers have two very good tackles. He'll play alongside one of the best tackles in the NFL from last season in Joe Alt, and he was just a rookie. The expectation is that he will get better throughout his career. He had a great season last season. So you have Joe Alt, Mekhi Becton, Rashawn Slater. You're building depth on this offensive line. And now you have someone at the guard position who can just push players out the way for your running backs. You didn't have that last year. There was a lot of places where J.K. Dobbins had to place his toe in the turf, bounce out to the outside. Now you can just be dominant and run the football down a team like the Kansas City Chiefs and the same with the Denver Broncos' throat over and over again. And you have to have aggressive trench play here. The reason why I'm focusing in on this with the Chargers, they haven't had aggressive trench play since they drafted Justin Herbert. The offensive line protection has always been a problem. And they tried to go out there and basically say, you know what, we'll build this team with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, good luck stopping us. But when those wide receivers went down and the offensive line was the weakest part with the offense, we saw Justin Herbert deal with numerous injuries before. A finger injury, cracked ribs, wasn't able to finish out seasons because of this crap. A lot of that was because of Brandon Staley and the former general manager, Tom Telesco. Now you have more structure with your organization. It's never a bad situation to have a bunch of running backs and to have a bunch of offensive linemen that can come in and take some of that pressure off of Justin Herbert. And if you're worried about Greg Roman being the offensive coordinator, I fully understand. But look at what Justin Herbert was able to do last season with only one true number one wide receiver in Ladd McConkey. 3,870 receiving 70 passing yards, That was the ninth most in the NFL for a quarterback. 23 passing touchdowns to 3 interceptions. And he ran the football a lot in the goal line situations. When you look at Justin Herbert, you may think that he's a prototypical quarterback, 5-step drop. He has wheels on him. Just in the past, he never went out there in the open field and used his legs. With Greg Roman, he's going to allow that. So now you have more read option plays with your running backs coming out of the backfield, RPO plays with Ladd McConkey coming across the middle of the field. You're adapting to today's NFL. It's a better offense than they had with Coach Lombardi. I think that the Chargers are moving into the right direction by building an actual team around Justin Herbert, and he can take those deep shots down the field to someone like Ladd McConkey, who's entering year number 2. And speaking of Ladd McConkey, 1,149 receiving yards last season, 7 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 14 yards a catch, 82 receptions on the season. Now, when you look at Quentin Johnston, I still hold out hope that Quentin Johnston can be a very good football player. They selected him in the first round 2 years ago. 711 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, 13 yards a catch. If he can just work on certain routes, going deep down the field, and work on his hands, he could be a reliable wide receiver. And Coach Harbaugh still thinks the world of Quentin Johnston. But we saw what happened last season when Ladd McConkey went down and he was dealing with some injuries for a couple weeks. When Quentin Johnston had to be the number 1 target, and he would drop a pass, that was it for him for the rest of the game. Look at what happened against the Baltimore Ravens. It was a wide open slant. He could take it to the house. He dropped the football. He hangs his head. He was done for the rest of the game. He mentally checked out. You can't have those moments with him. Hopefully he continues to grow. He's a special type of talent with the body that he has and the ability to make moves in open field. And I want him to be a very good player with the Chargers. I would say stick with him for one more season. Like I mentioned before, over 700 receiving yards. That's a very good season for Quentin Johnston. You look at his rookie season, it was terrible. He had so many drop passes down the stretch. But last year, you saw him build on that. He was catching the football at a better rate. He continues to work on those hands and continues to finish out that route tree. And he can be that deep threat or just work in between the middle of the field. You could be cooking something special here with Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and the same with Trey Harris, who you selected with the 55th pick coming from Ole Miss. Trey Harris is a very interesting wide receiver. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. The reason why I say he's very interesting, when you look at Ole Miss, it's a bunch of RPO plays. Wide receivers get schemed open a lot, but he's a little bit different. He ran a lot of comeback routes, a lot of hitches. He's a route master in terms of those deep threats down the field on a go route. He's a speedy wide receiver. This is one of those situations to where you run the football so much, they may creep a safety down. You run play action. Justin Herbert has the arm to take the football deep down the field and put it to only where the wide receiver can get it. Hopefully that works out with Trey Harris. I think he'll be a very good wide receiver. I don't know if he'll be the next Ladd McConkey, but with the speed that he has, he can make an impact on day one with the Los Angeles Chargers. And when you look at some of the most speedy wide receivers in NFL history, a lot of the times they could take the top off the defense. They're used as a distraction to basically take a safety away. Now, Ladd McConkey's in one-on-one situations, and the same with Quentin Johnson. You open up your offense. What DJ Chark was not able to do last season in terms of staying healthy and just being a very good deep threat on the field, that's what Trey Harris can do for you. And you double back in the NFL draft with the 158th pick with Keandre Lambert-Smith, wide receiver from Auburn, a similar speedy wide receiver. He averaged 20 yards a catch, 981 receiving yards on the season, 8 receiving touchdowns. So you're getting more depth at the wide receiving position. He may not pan out to be a true threat with the Chargers on day one, but he's going to give you that speed factor. So I like the draft of the Los Angeles Chargers, and I like what they did in free agency. They just have to stay healthy moving forward, and Greg Roman has to do a better job with being creative with his offensive plays in terms of passing the football. And I'll have more to say about Greg Roman in the next couple of minutes. With the 125th pick, it's the Coach Harbaugh team. You know they're going to go with defense here. They went with Kyle Kennard, edge from South Carolina. This is very good value. He had 11.5 sacks with South Carolina, 3 forced fumbles. He will work very well in a rotation. He's 6'4", 254 pounds. They lost Joey Bosa in free agency. It's one of those situations with Joey Bosa. He's not going to stay with the team too much longer anyway. They were having so many contract restructures with Joey Bosa. It was time to move on. Joey Bosa couldn't stay healthy. He was awesome when he first came to the NFL, but the injuries tore his body down. When you look at Joey Bosa, the pass rushing percentage went down. He was a very good run stopper. You're paying him so much money. You want him to be that franchise pass rusher. His body just couldn't hold up. He's missed so much time within the last few years to the point to where Thule has now become more reliable. He's cheaper and overall is just a better player. 8.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. You re-sign Khalil Mack to a big deal, 1-year deal. 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. It's time to go out there and eventually move on from Khalil Mack because he is getting older. And his numbers are going down every single year. He's still an awesome pass rusher to have. He's a veteran. You always need that veteran presence. But it's time to bring in some youth with the Chargers. That's what you're doing with this pick. And whenever the Chargers go out there and they select defensive players late in the NFL draft or at the midway point of the NFL draft, more than likely they're going to work out in Jesse Minter's system. We have to remember this. It was a bunch of cornerbacks last season. They were not highly drafted. They go out there as the season progressed. They perform better and better because of Jesse Minter. He's going to put you into the right situation every single week. So now look at Kyle Kennard. I don't expect for him to go out there and to be a major pass rusher early on. But as the season progresses, he will get a bigger role with the Chargers up front. And he'll play behind Bud Dupree, Khalil Mack, and Thule. But I like the rotation that they have right now. It's cheaper and they're more athletic. Bud Dupree has 6 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. And you need athletic players in this division. Bo Nix is a very good and is a very athletic quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Patrick Mahomes, we all know what he is. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You can make the case that he is the best quarterback in the NFL. You need to bring him down. Look at what the Las Vegas Raiders are doing. They're building a team off the trenches. They have a home run hitter in Ashton Jeanty that they selected in the first round. So you need aggressive defensive playmakers up front to take away some of those weapons by putting pressure on the quarterback, controlling the line of scrimmage, and giving you different looks up front. You can run different twists, different stunts up front with your defensive rotation. And that's one thing that Jesse Minter is going to do. He runs a lot of light boxes. When you really pay attention to the defense with the Los Angeles Chargers, they'll have 3 safeties on the field. It's basically a college defense. The problem with that is this: you may give up a lot of rushing yards here and there against a top rushing team. The counter argument is this: Derwin James is essentially just an extra linebacker on the field at the safety position. And we saw Derwin James last season, what he was able to do: 60 solo tackles, 1 interception, 7 pass deflections. It doesn't always come down to interceptions and going out there and being a top interception leader. You can have a lot of interceptions in a season. Look at Trayvon Diggs, his rookie year, but he gave up a lot of receiving yards. As long as you're going out there and you're making plays, you're stopping the run on crucial situations, that's what you want to see. Especially with Derwin James. I love the way that Jesse Minter used him last season. I remember when Brandon Staley put him in one-on-one situations with Travis Kelce when he was in his prime. That is not how you want to use Derwin James. You want him to float around on your defense, be able to guard running backs out of the backfield, blitz him off the edge, and just find creative ways to use him, especially with this stage of his career. And he's still a very good player to have. But having him be a mini linebacker at times, having him being able to guard up tight ends, come off the edge. He's a versatile Swiss Army knife in this defense. It adds into the defensive looks that you can give on the offensive end. You signed Dante Jackson in free agency. He's a speedy cornerback. 5'10", 180 pounds. He had 5 interceptions last season and 8 pass deflections. The only thing with Dante Jackson would be this: can he stay healthy? Had a solid career with the Carolina Panthers, had a solid stint with the Steelers. The only thing I worry about with him is his health. But he can jam up at the line of scrimmage. He's not a true number 1 cornerback. But once again, in a rotation, he's solid, especially as a true number 2. I'm more so of a big fan of Cam Hart. Cam Hart was able to come in last season. 6'2", 207 pounds, 1 forced fumble, 7 pass deflections. He looked very good. It was a situation to where everyone was hurt in the secondary with the Los Angeles Chargers. They won a game strictly off their defense along against the Atlanta Falcons. They got a pick 6. They didn't score an offensive touchdown in that matchup. That is how good their defense was, even with injuries in the secondary. And they dealt with so many safety injuries down the stretch. A fully healthy Chargers team on the back end with this front 7, they should be better. Usually a coach is going to struggle in year number 1. He really doesn't have the personnel that he wants. He doesn't have the players that he wanted to bring in. But for the Los Angeles Chargers, you made the NFL playoffs. You had a strong defense against the pass and against the run. So for the first time in his career, Justin Herbert had a defense that he could rely on. Just continue to build on the offensive end. Gilman is also a very good safety at the free safety position. 1 interception, 4 pass deflections. Elijah Molden, 3 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. So you have playmakers on the back end. I like what the Chargers did this offseason, and it just comes down to coaching and the playmakers up front. Now back to the offensive end with Greg Roman. The thing is this with Greg Roman. He's an old school type of offensive coordinator. He gets a lot of hate. At times, his offensive play calls will not make any sense. It's a bunch of curls, a bunch of slants, a bunch of underneath routes, and then eventually he'll try to take the top off the defense with some deep bomb plays. That was the main critiques with him with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. But he did help Lamar Jackson win his first MVP in the NFL. He had a lot of success with the San Francisco 49ers when he was the offensive play caller with Alex Smith. This is not his first time being coached with Coach Harbaugh before. He is a solid offensive coordinator, but he will never be a top offensive mind like a Kyle Shanahan, like a Sean McVay. He doesn't have to. It comes down to the players up front. And really this, can Justin Herbert against elite defenses like the Houston Texans, can he step up? I love me some Justin Herbert, but that performance that he had against the Houston Texans in the playoffs, that doesn't fly anymore. The 4 interceptions that he had, you can't have 4 interceptions in a playoff game and only have 3 interceptions in the regular season. He had a tremendous regular season. It was a down year for him. We're used to Justin Herbert having 30 to 35 passing touchdowns. I believe the days of that in the season are gone. But Justin Herbert can still be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You don't want the entire team to be on his back. That's what you want to get away from. And not every interception in that Houston Texans game was all on Justin Herbert. But when you're the franchise quarterback, coming off the season that you had, you have to find ways to go out there and try to manipulate coverage and not force the football into tricky situations to Quentin Johnston. And I still think the world of Justin Herbert and Greg Roman. So what they did last season was very impressive. And you swept the Denver Broncos last year. You had the Kansas City Chiefs on the ropes, not once, but twice. That first game, your 2 top tackles, they're out. Justin Herbert's dealing with injury. You go against the Chiefs again in the matchup. The second matchup there, Ladd McConkey's out. Now you're depending on Quentin Johnston to be that number 1 wide receiver. And by the way, he had a solid outing in that game. You had the Chiefs dead to rights, not once, but twice. It's just the little things there with that team. But you continue to build, you continue this philosophy with Coach Harbaugh, and you buy in. That's what you're looking for here. Do not be surprised if the Los Angeles Chargers are still a top-tier team in the AFC for this upcoming season. But with everything they've done in the offseason, the one thing that I am very confused about is the tight end position. This administration, they love tight ends. This was a tight end heavy draft. They still have Will Dissly. No disrespect to Will Dissly. Will Dissly had a career year last season, receiving wise. 481 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. He's more so known as a blocking wide receiver. He's not known for going out there and getting over 450 to 550 receiving yards in the year. That's not his role. And we've seen this in the past with other teams. He's more so of a blocker on the edge. He's going to seal the edge and hope the running back can bounce the football out the field. That is what he's known for. And when I look at Will Dissly, I don't think that he's going to be that day one game changer at the tight end position, even though last season he had a solid year. When I look at the tight ends that went in the NFL draft, I pretty much was basically saying this. It's a guarantee they're going to draft a tight end in the high rounds, but they didn't. You do have Tyler Conklin as a backup tight end. 449 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. Maybe he can come in and be a better receiving threat than Will Dissly. But that's very interesting there for the Chargers. And we've seen this in the past with Coach Harbaugh. He drafted Vernon Davis, and Vernon Davis was one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And the same at the college level. Colson Loveland. He recruited him. He was a top receiving tight end all the way through in college with Michigan when JJ was his quarterback. Pretty much that Michigan team that you just saw over the last 2 years, he's the guy that went out there and recruited him. He was a coach at Michigan for a very long time. But I like what the Chargers did in free agency. I love what they did in the NFL draft. It comes down to Justin Herbert and the coaches. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about the Los Angeles Chargers, and did you approve of their NFL draft and their free agent moves? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.